Greg and Richard right here on Talking Red.
Hello there and welcome back to Talking Reds, Nottingham Forest podcast. With me, your host, Greg Oram, and my podcast partner, Mr. Richard Spray. And with us today on the panel, we are joined by Dave Thompson and our good friend, the Garibaldi Bard, Jack Thompson. Now then, whenever you play Manchester City, you know the margins are fine, and today those margins didn't fall our way. Forest were beaten, but the story isn't just about the scoreline. It's about how the game unfolded, where we competed, and where the gap possibly still showed a little bit. We'll talk about the game plan, the moments that shifted the momentum, the chances we did and didn't take, and how City's control eventually told. There were spells where Forest stood up well and looked more than able to compete with the Premier League high flyers, but we might reflect that this was a tale of set pieces. Our failure to use multiple opportunities successfully, and City's punishing aptitude when their set-piece routine finally landed. This is about perspective, not panic, an honest, clear-eyed review of a tough afternoon and what Forest have to take from it going forwards. But beyond the match, and more importantly, our hearts are broken. The sorrow we feel is raw and the hurt very real as we start to process the loss of our greatest ever player, John Robertson.
Give him a ball and give him a yard of grass and he became an artist.
Sending Naylor one way then the other. Oh, and a brilliant goal by Robertson.
We've got a little fat guy that will turn him inside out.
John Robertson.
Yeah, very talented, highly skilled, unbelievable outside left. He'll turn him inside out. And the end product was always of such a quality.
Robertson, the first time we've seen them attack them, and there's Francis! Well, that's what I wanted to see Robertson do!
To Robertson. Robertson with Gray forward in support. Two players round Robertson. Shakes them off. Shakes off Calves. Knocks it forward to Birtles. To Robertson. Robertson shoots and it's in. It's there. Forest have scored. Robertson has done it. The game is 20 minutes old. And Robertson, who started it, finishes it off.
He was the Picasso of our game. Just give him a ball and a bit of grass. And I saw in him stuff that people see in other walks of life. It's as simple as that.
The greatest ever. It's quite often overused in many ways, but on this occasion, I think we all know for certain that when we talk about John Robertson and we say our greatest ever player, it's the truth, it's a fact, and what he gave to this club really will never be forgotten. I'm going to ask the boys for their tributes and their thoughts on John Robertson, but our good friend Paul Morley and Steve Battlematch were chipping in about John Robertson in our group and come up with something along these lines, that he had a vast amount of years where he made consecutive appearances for Nottingham Forest. So it was something like 1976 to December 1980. There were 243 appearances in all competitions. 3 games into that run, he was substituted against Leyton Orient in the Anglo-Scottish Cup. And that was the only time. He played every minute of every game for 240 games consecutively, during which time he won the Anglo-Scottish Cup in 77, promotion into the Old First Division in 77, the League Cup in 78, the Championship, the First Division in 78, the Charity Shield in 78, the League Cup in 79, the European Cup for the first time in 1979, assisting the goal that Trevor Francis scored to win us the trophy, the 1979 European Super Cup, and of course in 1980, the only goal of the game scored by Robertson to win Forest their second European Cup. We could go on and on and on about him, Richard, but losing a player, losing a man who meant so much to us, this one really hurts, doesn't it?
It absolutely does, yeah. I mean, I thought if anyone's seen the the video with Gary Birtles. I think he subbed it up really beautifully when you could see the emotion, you could see the connection that club had, and I think that's been the calling card of every single great team we've ever had is that togetherness and that ability to play cohesively and to be cohesive off the pitch, and everyone sort of be unified in their effort and their commitment to the club and to winning matches. And he was at the forefront of that. I mean, he was absolutely brilliantly skilled. He was, by all accounts, from what's been shared, to an incredibly wonderful human being off the pitch as well. So yeah, it's a tragic thing, unfortunately, and for all the struggles he went through as well leading up to his passing, it's just a shame, really. But what a talent, what an incredible footballer he was. The guy who absolutely did not fit the modern game's physical profile by any stretch, but he had every bit of skill, as much skill as anyone in today's game, and it's just a shame to unfortunately not be able to come through with a victory on his behalf today. But I know we'll keep fighting, keep playing the way that he'd want us to play as a team, and to be emblematic of the kind of effort and fight and energy and everything else and tenacity that he brought to the pitch and to his teams when he was on the pitch. So bless him and bless his family and bless the club and all those who knew him and knew him well. So yeah, tragic, unfortunate loss.
I can just about remember the second final, Dave. I don't remember much about it other than just images in my head. I was about 6 years old. But I think maybe you have one or two memories of John Robinson playing for Forest. Jack's definitely too young. So I'll ask you, Dave, what are your fondest thoughts and memories of John Robinson?
Well, I think just week in, week out, he was absolutely awesome. Everybody at school wanted to be him. Right? That I think that was the thing. We watched those finals and did those things, but like in playgrounds and football fields up and down the country, just everyone wanted to be him. It was like, just pass it, Robertson down the wing, That's all he did. Everybody. And, and even my friends now, seeing all the posts from my friends, he was just everyone's hero, from our era. There was Francis, of course, and all those other players, but, Gary Birtles lived few streets down on the other side of our wreck in the thing, so we saw Gary quite a lot because, we could stand outside his house, right? But, but everybody wanted to be John Robertson. Trying to recreate that goal, trying to, his cross to Francis. I saw a post from one of my friends, Willie, the other day saying he was trying to play Francis at school and literally stooped down to head the ball and head butted the bike shed and was unconscious for 2 days, kind of thing. Ended up in hospital. But just everyone wanted to be him, and I think that was the talent of him. We used to brought up in an era of watching like Johan Cruyff and people like that were just so talented with a ball to their feet, and John Robertson was just similar ilk. Yeah, just and what a wonderful tribute from the club today, and maybe all the fans and things like that, and the fact they're going to rename a stand, I think, is incredible.
Yeah, there has been a mention about renaming a stand after John Robinson for a while, and I think one or two were saying, "Come on, let's do this while he's still with us, so he can see that." And I wish that had happened, but it didn't. But in fairness to Mr. Marinakis, again, feels like the finger is on the pulse quite a lot of the time, and coming out very quickly with the statement that he has recommended to the board that the Bridgeford stand is to be renamed the John Robinson stand. I think it happened very quickly, and I think that was good, because had he not perhaps moved so quickly, you might have just lost the essence of the importance of it, perhaps. I think to kind of make that statement move very quickly makes us all feel a bit better about it, perhaps. Nothing can take away the pain, because obviously, when you have someone so important to your club, and I think every club has, I don't know, maybe a handful of players and ex-managers that are in that kind of catalogue of really kind of high-profile people that mean a lot to the club, and John Robinson definitely is one of ours. Obviously, Clough and Taylor speak for themselves. So, as you say, it's only fitting that the Bridgeford stand is going to be renamed as well. And Jack, just coming to you on this, I mean, I grew up not so much, knowing so much about John Robinson myself, because I was still quite young. but I always used to watch footage back or old videos back. Have you looked back on those kind of European times as well? And if, what kind of thoughts do you have about John Robertson, or is he just too far before your time to really kind of have that feeling?
Well, he's sort of like Cloughie is the stuff of legend for me. I never actually kind of like got to experience them both, but they come into the Forest folklore. And as you get more into the club and you support builds as you grow older and stuff, you start hearing all these like tales from your dad and your family and absolutely everyone who was there and got to experience the double European Cups and all the kind of like successes we had. So it kind of like gets passed down. It's generational. So like kind of like when you go back and you watch that footage and you kind of like think he was like smoking a ton and drinking a ton and he was still like bobbing up and down this left wing like no one's business. I'm just like, geez Louise, how the hell did he do that? But he's our greatest ever manager's greatest ever player. You know what I mean? He kind of like, he had all these wonderful talents that he had, and it was John Robertson on that left wing who was his absolute favourite. And I think that speaks to his quality more than anything. But in my opinion, the greatest manager of all time looks at that player and kind of go, "You're my guy." So it kind of,
Yeah, I think you've summed it up perfectly. Clough could be really hard on his players. I mean, Larry Lloyd was desperate for approval. He speaks about it in the I Believe in Miracles film and other interviews as well when he was alive still, about how he constantly looked to try and get that, that symbol of like, okay, and he was looking for it. But, John Robertson was the blue-eyed boy for Clough. But the thing is, he delivered. And the players themselves said, give it to Robbo. And just a couple of quick things that spring to mind before we move into the match. I read the wonderful tribute from Johnny Owen, where he was talking about how the players were all ready to come out for the preview or the film presentation. And they were all kind of lined up in the tunnel like they used to be. And one by one, I think someone started off, give the ball to Robbo, give it to Robbo. And that's what they used to shout. That's what they used to say in the tunnel lined up. And so for them to all do it again, I'm getting emotional now just thinking about it, because it's just wonderful that they thought so highly of him. And Martin O'Neill was always said so many high class things about John Robertson. And then, of course, I listened to TalkSport earlier and Stuart Pearce was talking about how in his first season at Forest, John Robertson had come back to the club, having been at Derby, for a couple of years, which we've always forgiven him about. And they were playing pre-season down in Devon, and John Robertson turned up in his suede shoes, camel suede shoes that were legendary, a scruffy pair of jeans, and the only thing he had on him was a toothbrush in his back pocket for 2 weeks worth. So, he just... I think they broke the mold when they made John Robertson on the transfer list when Brian Clough arrived in 1975. So let's remember that it was Clough and Taylor that really kind of were able to identify his special talent, and the others as well, we should add. And as we get through the years, we are losing one or two of them now. So we also remember Larry Lloyd. We also remember Trevor Francis from Clough and Taylor. And John Robertson is now up there with them, enjoying, I'm sure, a good laugh about old times. John Robertson, you will never, ever be forgotten. And, thank you so much for what you did for our club. Okay, let's think about the match. Man City coming to City Ground, Richard. It's always going to be tough. Give us your general thoughts on the match and how it unfolded, Rich.
I mean, I guess if you measure it in relation to where I thought it probably would end up, it was a pretty good showing, right? I mean, I was just praying that we didn't get pumped 3 or 4-0 and start, not only lose the match, but start to really dig into and create more challenge for our goal difference. But I thought we really availed ourselves well. I thought the first half we played with a lot of just stoutness on the defensive side, on our side of the pitch. I thought we really didn't give them a whole lot of space. There was a couple of moments where they seemed like they found they found those little creases to try to exploit, but they really didn't do a whole lot. I mean, the chance that Morgan had, I mean, clearly it should have been put away, right? I mean, it was right there. It's just like something held his foot back. I don't know what was going on there, but he just whiffed on it and didn't get, maybe the angle he wanted. I don't know. It was unfortunate because it was a beautiful ball by Callum. But I thought we really showed that we were up for it from the get go. We had that nice pass over to Jesus who got a throw in the first few minutes of the match and really looked like hey, you know what, we're ready for this. We're not going to allow them to dictate everything throughout the at least this first half, and then so it felt very positive from the off, but then obviously we'll get onto the second half and everything else. But I thought from a performance level standpoint, I thought we really deserved a point. I thought we put in the effort that we needed to in order to secure that, and just didn't come off, unfortunately. I'm about out of superlatives and expletives, if you will. When it comes to Rob Jones, I don't know what we have to do to keep him from being a referee when we play matches, but I'm like Marinakis, how about a couple $100,000 towards the PGMOL or something? Do they have a charity or something we can donate to try to keep that guy from refereeing our matches? Because every single time we have a match with him, something impactful occurs and it creates problems for us. But it is what it is at this stage. We've lost, we didn't get the point. We can't really complain too much at this stage. But yeah, it was really frustrating. And I mean, for Deitch, who's usually pretty measured about things, to come out and say what he said, I mean, it speaks volumes, I think, to the kind of way that he saw how that unfolded, and just the inconsistency in terms of how he called fouls and everything else throughout that match. It's just terrible. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, we'll get into a bit more about the referee as we go through. Jack, I think you were saying before we came on air that you've just about landed over in the States. For those that aren't aware, Dave and Jack are father and son, and Dave lives over in America. So Jack's visiting for the holidays. I think you guys were up drinking to the early hours, and then you've watched the match back. So I hope you're with us. What did you make of the game, Jack, in general? And what do you think of the team selection with Dominguez coming in?
I liked it, to be honest. Dominguez for me is a workhorse. He's but he's always kind of like, for me, he's kind of like there. He doesn't necessarily offer like kind of like the drive of Sangari or like the creativity of Louise, where he's just like, he can ping. All of a sudden he's got some magic at his feet and he can just ping a ball out into the middle of nowhere, even though he's like inconsistent because of all his injuries and stuff. Dominguez kind of like, he seems to do the unnoticed yards, I think. But listen, I like the team selection. I thought we played very well. It is like kind of we played great. It's definitely an improvement from what we had at Fulham, but that's the thing. We always seem to like play well against these big teams. When it's like Liverpool, it's Tottenham, it's Man City, we turn up and play great, and then it's just like kind of like, I don't know whether we're taking the foot off the gas. I hope not, or whether it's just a mentality thing against the likes of, no disrespect, Everton and Fulham, where you just like kind of like, if you can put in these kind of performance against those teams where they don't have that Erling Haaland kind of like hanging around, or Turkey, just to have a little bit of magic that can absolutely destroy you at any given time. It's just like, we wouldn't be in this position. But yeah, very happy with the selection team, very happy with the performance overall. Just a shame about the result.
It was indeed. And Dave, no Dan Ndoye in the squad again. So 2 games in a row that he's not featuring. We haven't heard about any kind of injury. So I wonder if it literally is, a case of you have a rest and have a proper rest, because his performances have been a little bit off over the last few weeks. It looked very much like a 4-5-1 out of possession, I thought. Yeah. And John Victor keeps his place in goal. Keeping him in, even though Matt Sells is fit. In the post-match after, he was asked about that, and Sean Dyche says John has the shirt now, as far as he's concerned. What's your thoughts on that?
And rightly so. I mean, rightly so. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? When players go out and they're injured, and Nuno, you say it's like next player up, right? You get your opportunity, you've got to take it. And they was talking about Gunn as well. He's a Scottish #1 goalkeeper, his 3rd spot in Forest now. I mean, it's that's some depth, right? But I think he deserves it. I mean, he made a couple of excellent saves. I thought he was unlucky, with the second goal. I don't think there's really a lot you can do. It's gone through Morgan's legs as he's trying to get back up. I mean, he's got his hand to it, but I thought great save just before that, saved with his legs. I mean, yeah. I mean, as much as I love Matt Salles, I mean, it's going to take a bit to get that jersey back, right?
Well, I mean, it's kind of refreshing, I guess, because sometimes there are very much established #1s. I'm thinking about Alisson, who gets injured a lot every season. But then as soon as he's fit, he comes back in, and it was Slot this time. When Klopp was manager, he was the same. Alisson's my number one. If he's fit, he plays. And I think that most of the time, that's generally how managers view it. This time round, with Sells taking some time out with a so-called groin injury, John Victor comes in, and I think we were all thinking, well, he'll come in for a game and he'll be taken back out again. But he has kept the shirt. And I guess there's something in that, perhaps, Richard, where if you only get a game in the Carabao Cup against Swansea and it's, you look a little bit shaky, it's your first game in English football, people make judgments on that very, very quickly, and we're guilty of that. Sometimes, not sometimes, actually, I think all the time, you need to have maybe a run of games to really feel confident and established in any side that you can feel settled and know what you're doing. And so maybe what Dyche has done is quite a clever move by saying, well, actually, you know what? You've come in, there's been no ricks at all. You've performed well against Spurs, kept a clean sheet. The Fulham game we know about, it was just a penalty. And today performed pretty well. So it's a little bit unexpected for some, perhaps. But I was mentioning on here that I felt that this was probably Sells' final year at Forest. I have a feeling it's a hunch that maybe he's not going to be here at the end of the season. I know nothing, by the way. It is just a hunch. Where are you? Are you happy with John Victor keeping his place? I mean, as long as he's keeping the goal in the kind of condition we want it, I guess I'm trying to say. Not making any major errors. I suppose it's not a bad thing.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's a good problem to have when you have players that probably. It's hard because the sample size is minimal. We know what we saw in the Club World Cup when he was facing, elite competition, and he looked very, very confident, composed. Didn't look like he didn't belong in that setting. I mean, obviously the Premier League's the best league in the world, so you're going to have. There's an acclimation period that's going to come for a goalkeeper as well. Understanding your angles, understanding things coming at you in a different way that maybe you're not used to. And so maybe you're right, Greg. Maybe there's some sort of foreshadowing effect of this where, hey, you know what? Let's try him out and let's see if he can get a good run. And if he can play well, great. That's means we have maybe a 1A and 1B scenario, right? You can probably interchange those two keepers in that ranking concept. But I would also say that it maybe gives them a chance to figure out, okay, is this something we're going to have to genuinely target in the offseason? Because we know there's going to be movement. We know there's going to be players that are highly coveted on our squad that will likely be exiting. And so having a goalkeeper who potentially, with that kind of height, he feels like he's a little bit more confident in the box. Maybe, we haven't quite seen it yet consistently because, again, as you've pointed out, he just hasn't had a ton of minutes, ton of matches. But he does look like a player that's going to try to command the box a little bit more, whereas that's always been a challenge for Sells, right? He likes to hug that line. He makes great saves at times, but he's not really one that you would think is going to be physical for a guy who's 6'2", pretty decent size goalkeeper. He doesn't really come out and try to punch the ball away frequently, and when he has, sometimes he looks a little bit lacking in that arena. So it'd be great to have something like this kind of unfold, allow us to see whether the quality's there, whether he can integrate into the Premier League, and then ultimately become a true number one. And then we've got another good, really solid backup keeper in Matt Sells. And then potentially, if they feel like it's not the option that we want, then you can go out and look for someone else, maybe like a James Trafford. So yeah, I agree with you, Greg. I mean, it was a bit of a surprise because you just figure it was maybe just a lingering injury, but by virtue of Matt Sells being on the bench in that match, right? The last match as well, it just spoke to the fact that maybe this is the time that we're going to start seeing a changing of the guard, because Matt Sells had been pretty much inked in match in and match out. So, but yeah, I thought he did great. I mean, like Dave pointed out, great save with the left foot. Maybe he could have done a little bit better on the goal from Reinders, but you know what? That was a difficult ball to have to face because he didn't have a ton of time to have to react to it. Reinders was right on top of him right there. And he's a good player, obviously quality player. So that's the kind of finish you're going to see. But anyway, yeah. Definitely pleased, definitely hoping. He has that little bit of a brief Samba type swagger to him as well, which we've all missed, right, since the Samba days. So hopefully he can bring that as well, that confidence to have that kind of guy in the between the sticks, especially, as we continue to move forward and try to defend those set pieces.
I think if Sells was performing the way he was last season, that I think he probably comes back in straight away.
It's a good point.
He's not been performing to that level. So therefore, you're in the manager's mind a little bit to make the change. And if it comes your way with an injury, then, yeah, John keeps the shirt. in the first half, I thought we played pretty well, Jack. We pressed well. We had good energy. One player that really stood out for me was Igor Jesus. Now, he's a bit of a workhorse. He puts himself about. What do you think about Igor Jesus? And are we going to get an Igor Jesus song at some point?
Well, we did get like a Jesus song, but it was Mrs. Robinson, wasn't it? I tried to do it to that, but it's got Nuno in it, so I'm going to have to make a new one. Absolutely.
I'm not going to suggest anything. I know you like to let your creative juices be quite, unique.
Well, I've got an All-Einer one that's kind of like waiting for him to come back. So yeah.
I saw a sneak preview this morning. So yeah, it was a half-time preview I got of that. So that's good.
Amazing.
Yeah. But Jesus is absolutely brilliant footballer. It kind of reminds me of what we had with Keenan Davis in our kind of like promotion season. That big physical kind of like presence that's just like there to hold it up and let the creative players like catch up, get it up that field, and have like a Brennan or now it's Cal and Damari kind of like running off him and allowing Morgan to kind of like pack up. It's kind of like it reminds me of that, and it's the way he earns those fouls, and you should have got far more than we actually got given to him today. And that's probably because he keeps earning them. It's like kind of like it almost becomes boy who cried wolf. It's just like kind of like the referee's kind of going, oh yeah, well maybe one of them isn't a foul, when in fact the vast majority of them, they can't outmuscle him, and he's not a big fella, but he seems to win like the majority of the headers that kind of like end up in his direction. He's outmuscling the big 6 foot centre backs and kind of like pushing them along. He's brilliant. All he needs is goals, and he's pretty much there, to replace Woody.
I mean, Nico Gonzalez was manhandling him. Gvardiol got involved, and then it was Diaz that I think on his first foul got the booking. Maybe it was something he said. So that was kind of an interesting moment because. And we'll come on to why in just a short while. But we go into half time, Dave, 0-0. And I said to my dad and my son, I said, I think we're playing really well. We were a little bit tough against them, but we were playing really well. And we were, Haaland was like non-existent. To keep him really quiet was something, wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh, incredible. I mean, we had this conversation. I said to Jack, I think the commentators, he had 6 touches. Haaland was restricted 6 touches in the whole game, in the whole first half. And if you think back to the previous game at the City Ground when we beat them, he was completely non-existent, wasn't he? Absolutely non-existent in that game. They kept him at bay. They didn't let anything through. I thought the defense were as a unit for the first half was absolutely incredible. It's sort of second half a little bit of thing as we got a bit stretched, but for the first half, just night and day. There was a post someone posted in the American forum in our forum group, and it was the sine wave of Forest, and it was like this down here and then play brilliant, up down there and then play brilliant. But I mean, if we play anybody the way we played that first half with that grit and determination and fight and winning the second ball, Elliot Anderson, I'm sure you're going to talk about Elliot Anderson today. Nobody got near a second ball. As soon as the ball broke, he was in there. He was in there in front of every player, back to them, shielding the ball. Absolutely incredible. So I was a little bit disappointed we went in at 0-0. I thought we were good for, perhaps leading at that point, which again, we go back to the chance that we had. But we certainly didn't look like we was going to lose that game today.
I mean, on that chance, Dave, just sticking with you for a moment. I mean, Callum Hudson-Odoi in the same area that he punished Spurs against with the lovely cross. What was it about that moment that meant we didn't score? Do you think Igor, Jesus?
I think they put each other off. Yeah, I think he put him off. I think he put him off. I think it's just Igor stretched for it. And I think at that point, Morgan either saw him and thought they were both. I mean, we were off the couch. The dogs were like, we were off the couch going, yes, and they were like, no, I mean, we were both up thinking that's one of them is just going to put a touch on it and it's going to go in, right? So, but you look back and it's almost like he'd almost taken his eye off the ball because of You know, it went almost like went over his foot, and I think at that point over Jesus' foot. So you know, I think at that point it was. I think he just.
It's hard to anticipate it, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, once you've got that kind of like Jesus running in front of you, it's like even if it gets a little deflection, you kind of like trying to judge it, and maybe you can't see it properly. I'm not sure. I'm trying to find all the excuses for him that I can. Right. But the ball was perfect. It was begging to go in.
Yeah, there was no way that wasn't going in until it didn't. You know what I mean? It's probably surprising.
Callum looks like he's coming back into his own a bit, Richard, isn't he? I think he's got that confidence back now. You know, a bit more of a swagger to his game, would you say?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think we spoke about this the other day. It's very reminiscent of the first season. You hope that it manifests into 8 goals by the end of the season, like it did the first season with Forest. You know, he just felt like he really came into form at a critical time when we needed it desperately, and we needed that wide play to be a little bit more effective, a little bit more impactful. And now you're seeing that on both sides of the pitch, because I thought Amari was excellent today. I thought he was very fearless. I thought he took on defenders, didn't look big at the moment, didn't look too big for him. He didn't look like he was being out-muscled on a consistent basis. He was dropping back and finding his outlets when he needed to. He was trying to get crosses in when he needed to. I mean, just looked really good. And obviously the finish, man, that finish on the goal was just spectacular. I mean, that's not an easy finish, the way that ball came into his foot. And so, yeah, I thought Callum's overall play, and I think they make each other better because they're both competing with one another to be that type of player that the team needs to provide that service that we know we're missing from Elanga. And you're seeing some pace too, which I love from Amari as well, getting around players, which is excellent. He's not going to have the elite pace that we know Elanga has, but it's still enough to where it creates challenges for opposing defenders. So yeah, I thought Callum's just sets the bar, which is fantastic. And I mean, it just still blows my mind how young of a guy he is too. I mean, he's got so much good football left in front of him. And so it's just exciting as he starts to find that ability to cut through again and create problems and suck players to him so he can open up space for other players. I mean, he's been really, really good for a few matches in a row. As long as he stays healthy, that's always the caveat, right? Because he does tend to get a little bit tired, a little bit leggy, a little bit. I mean, he had the dead leg issue just a few weeks ago. So, but overall, he can't be anything but happy with how he's impacting the game at this stage.
Yeah, definitely. So we go in 0-0. That's when my feed cut for like 10 minutes. I was kind of around to get things sorted. So I had Colin Frey on the radio. And so I didn't actually see the so-called second incident with Ruben Diaz, where the Colin Frey was saying, well, look, that's a yellow card, surely. And they were crying out for a second yellow card. I'll come to you, Dave and Jack. Both of you were watching it together. I mean, just take us through that, Dave. Was it a yellow card for you? What happened? How did you see it?
Yeah. I mean, he caught him. I mean, it's like one of the things. He's gone past him and he's clipped his heels. It's like, I mean, you know, any other time, if it wasn't like, what was it, a minute in or something, I think 2 minutes in, 3 minutes in, I think he would have got a yellow card. And maybe and like I say, we're going to come on to Rob Jones, but he bottled it. He just bottled it. There's no other word for it. And he did that with many of the big decisions today, and I won't go on because the whole pod will go about Rob Jones, and I don't want to look like we're whinging, but I thought that was really poor, and just missed some of those big decisions, which are, which would potentially be game changing. And I'm not one for like trying to get players sent off or go down to 10 or 9 players. So we beat Man City that way because I thought we was good value for beating them, with all 11 on the pitch. But I think when you start to see those sort of things that happen against you, and it was so, like I say, any other minute in the game, it'd have been booked. I don't understand it. Maybe, like I say, just so fresh after half time, he didn't want to do it. But I think any other part of the game, he'd have gone.
Yeah, I can't get my head around that. I mean, I think maybe you're right to kind of reason as to why he didn't send him off with a second yellow. But if it's the game's playing, whether it's the first minute, the first second, or whatever it is.
Sure.
But then, moments after that, Jack, we go 1-0 down. I managed to see this goal. Reindeer's kind of crept in and slotted it through John Victor. I mean, when we go 1-0 down against Man City, you kind of think, well, that's it, done and dusted. What were your overriding thoughts when that goal went in?
Typical, basically.
Yeah.
My dad actually spoiled it for me because we were on a delay over here. So it's kind of like he had a ping to his Forest group, and we were on the attack, and he was just like, "Oh, for fuck's sake!" And I was just like, "Oh, right, okay."
I always turn off my everything because same kind of thing happens all the time.
I know.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. But it's just like typical. We've been playing really well. We should be up on men. We've been really positive, and then they have a little bit of quality. The only bit of quality that they've pretty much had in that game to that point, and we're behind. And it's kind of like you worry about the heads dropping because I hate the phrase that we're too good for the Premier League and all that kind of like stuff that keeps being thrown around because the amount of people who kind of like we're too good to go down. Sorry, because the amount of clubs that we've seen go down. The fact is that at this moment we're still in the fight, and we can't have these little things keep happening towards us. I mean, we had it last season with all the kind of like, it almost became like we were victims of like kind comedy, of like, the referees. Obviously we're not, but it's just like, it's silly decisions like, that Rob Jones made today. And it's just like, mate, give us a break. But no, to be honest, I love the reaction to it. Like kind of like the immediate reaction to it, like kind of like my hopes. I was in here, I was thinking, the heads are going to drop, Man City are going to turn on and stuff like that. But it was a really good reaction from the guys, and especially to get our goal back.
Yeah, we had to ride a storm, Richard, but then there was that Hutchinson goal. So how did you see it? Great move from Mick Morgan breaking out of defence.
Well, one of the things that we often say about Morgan, is he's not particularly good at taking players on face to face. Generally speaking, on the half turn, he looks a little bit more adept, and he can kind of create problems from that. But I mean, I think he had a nice little wiggle move on the opposing midfielder. He gets through, he finds his outlet. Callum then finds Morgan running into space. I mean, from a football build-up play type scenario, it was absolutely beautiful. And the ball to Jesus was perfectly weighted. Jesus's pass was perfectly angled, and it just dropped right to Amari, making that oncoming run. It was just everything you hope to see from an execution standpoint. And that's the kind of football I think that many envisioned we'd get supposedly under Ange, right? When in reality, when it's coming under someone like Sean Dyche, right? Who's not known for that kind of stuff as much. And yet we've seen this sort of synergy building up between these players. And I thought it just showed another depth to Jesus's game as well, to be able to supply that kind of assist to him, because I mean, the way he executed it was absolutely perfect. It was absolute perfection, really, and it just shows too the growth that's coming from Amari as well in terms of his awareness in the football IQ side of things, being able to know where to find himself right in the perfect place to catch that ball, or to trap the ball and be able to put it home. But I mean, it's similar to the Callum Wendo go that we saw a few weeks ago. It was a very difficult thing to execute simply because it kind of came on a half volley scenario. And so it's unfortunate it got spoiled by the fact that we know things didn't go our way at the end of the match, but just seeing that kind of growth and development from these key players that we know are going to be a part of our future, especially in the near future, is critical. It's a great thing to see unfold before us. And it shows the kind of work that's being put in from the coaching staff too, and the kind of confidence they're helping to generate from these players. And again, just finding that cohesion as a unit is excellent as well. And I apologize, guys, I have to take off. I have to slum it by going eating some Mexican food with my family. So have a great rest of your day, boys. Come on, you
Thanks,
guys.
Richard.
All right, boys.
Enjoy the time
Take
with
care.
family. See you soon,
All right, mate. Bye.
That's a perfect time for us to take a very quick break. We'll be back in just a moment.
The Cheese Trader, based on Grape Lane in York, is a cheese lover's paradise. Home to some wonderful specialty cheeses, relishes and chutneys, and also with a fantastic street food menu. Try their loaded fries or posh cheese on toast. It'll be the best you've ever had. Owned by Forest fan Stu Freestone, the Cheese Trader proudly sponsors Talking Reds. Quote Talking Reds every time to get 10% off your order. The Cheese Trader and Talking Reds, the perfect cheesy mix.
I think everybody knows that the Cheese Trader is our sponsor, and I am looking forward very much to the end of this podcast because I'm going to be having some red wine and lots of cheese that came through the post last week. So by all means,
I mean,
you can
Greg,
listen,
I mean,
you can't say
this
nothing.
Conversation.
You can't say nothing to me. I've got the view to look at that is behind you two at the moment. You've got the weather and the view and the gorgeous American kind of like setting, and I'm cold and wet. I've got wine and cheese to look forward to. So
yeah, okay.
All right, okay. Richard's left us, and so we're going to continue just kind of finishing off the game. I thought Forest really stood up to some pressure after we went 1-0 down, and then to really get the goal back to go 1-1 with a great move from Hutchinson, as Richard's just described, was absolutely fantastic, guys. It was the kind of penetrative move that I was really hoping we'd see, because as much as the Spurs performance was amazing, the 3 goals were amazing because they were just so unexpected. The goal that was given to us when we nicked it, and then the 2 amazing strikes. You know, you don't score those every day. Right. And we lacked penetration against Fulham, but that goal breaking out from the back and Gibbs White and Hudson-Odoi linking up and feeding Jesus to cross it for Hutchinson. I mean, it was absolutely fantastic. And thereafter, I really felt like we could go on and win the game. I would have taken a point. I'm not going to lie. You know, Man City have been winning game after game after game. And then the moment came, didn't it? When, of course, all of our hard work came undone. One thing that was really frustrating for me, I mentioned it in the intro, was we had quite a few set pieces, Dave, and it felt like we just weren't doing anything with them. We played it short, or the ball was too shallow. It wasn't getting up past the first man. And we weren't really kind of troubling Man City with our set pieces, free kick or corners. And then, of course, they had a couple of corners that they were trying to get to the back post. Foden overhit one, but it was almost like a little bit of a warning signal. That's where they're trying to ping it. And sure enough, the ball flies over to the back post, gets headed down, and Cherky steps in and smacks it in. The complaints from Forest are that Gibbs White was getting fouled on the near post, I think by Nico O'Reilly. How did you see it, Dave?
Oh yeah, I mean, so let's first. I mean, let's talk about set pieces first, and I mean, we were frustrated with it. I said to Jack, I said, just put it in. You never know what's going to happen, right? Just get it in the box. And we, like you say, you couldn't clear the first man. You know, they were all flat. You know, flat. Everything was flat, and it was, you know, just couldn't break through. And it was like, hey, we've had a set piece coach, but for the other end, you know, it's like we need one back up there. We just couldn't get anything in. And when we did it, the last 5-10 minutes, we started putting balls over, and their goalkeeper was flapping, and it was going everywhere. And I was thinking, that's what we should have been doing for the first 80, right? Coming on to the goal, I mean, it was a blatant foul. I don't know what it is. This is my frustration. I'm going to have a bit of a rant here. But my frustration with modern corners right now is some of the holding and wrestling. You can't call it anything else in the box. Wouldn't be out of place in rugby or NFL.
What was Donnarumma doing? Because he was just, as soon as Milenkovic came near him, he was pushing him and then trying to say that he was being pushed.
Right.
What was going on?
But it's so frustrating. You see, week in, week out. I mean, what was the game? Was it Everton? They like literally got their arms wrapped around everybody. And you're thinking, at which point is the ref? Because if you do that anywhere outside of the 18-yard box, the game would be stopped instantly. But it seems like this wrestling match that's being allowed to happen in for corners and set pieces now has just got completely out of hand. And the foul on Morgan Gibbs White was so blatant it was ridiculous. I mean, they showed the angles from the back of the goal. He's not even looking at the ball. He's literally just pushed him over. Len pushed him over. Morgan Gibbs White's trying to get back up onto his feet. He gets up onto his feet as the shot comes in, goes between his legs. He's not a chance to recover. And I think Sean mentioned that after in his post-match interview, that he's still trying to recover. And the fact that we have VAR looking at that and doesn't even intervene. And it's so blatant. Like I say, I don't want to sit like we're moaning and, oh, woe is us, it all goes. But at some point, it has to stop. At some point that, the referee organisation needs to take a look at it and either start awarding 10 penalties each game and or something that's going to sort of nip it in the bud, because at the moment it's completely out of control. And today we were the victims of the other side of that. And I thought without that, like you say, I couldn't see us losing at that point until we did. I thought we were full on value for at least a draw. And I think to lose in such a way is quite shameful, I think, in a lot of ways. And when Sean came to when Sean came to the club, he had that thing, as also saying as part of his, like refereeing decisions, they cost you, but they cost you your job, and they cost you millions and millions of pounds, dollars, by those type of errors. And one last thing, I also saw the Gary Lineker pod the other day with Shearer and thing. He's saying exactly the same. We are the best league in the world, and have some of the worst refereeing and worst use of VAR I've seen. It's just not fit for purpose. The whole thing is not fit for purpose. You cannot have a referee like Rob Jones underperform the way he does, and nothing be done about it. Nothing. There's no sanctions. There's no dropping him to the championship and promoting a championship ref up. There's literally no consequence except we'll get an apology on Wednesday about, we're sorry, we missed it. VAR should have done something, and it's all too late. So sorry about the rant, but that's like...
No, it's fine. You're welcome. This is the place to do it. We all feel the same. And I've been saying for a while that I think that half of them aren't fit for purpose. Howard Webb should have been resigning long time ago. He should have resigned over the whole Everton debacle. There's been other debacles as well. And under his watch, it feels like it's just got worse. The decisions that are made or not made just don't add up. Igor Jesus getting manhandled today. In fairness to Rob Jones, I will say, at halftime, I was pretty okay with him. He was giving fouls in our favour that we didn't get from Anthony Taylor against Fulham for similar things. The way that Anderson was manhandling Igor Jesus the other night, nothing was given. Rob Jones, in fairness, was rightly given free kicks our way, but there's the inconsistency at play there as well. Sean Dyche is livid. He has come out afterwards and he has said on TNT Sports that we played some fantastic football. Unfortunately, the officials had a huge part to play in the game today. I'm scratching my head now. I just can't believe what we were watching. It's pointless, he says, about speaking to the referee. We have done it many times as managers, but we only end up getting in trouble for no reason. He says, I'm incredibly frustrated by the officials today. I've already asked for a VAR report. He goes on to say, we've seen it all back. Such an easy decision for VAR. Such an easy decision for the officials. I am a big fan of VAR, but I cannot work out how you cannot get that right. Gibbs White is clearly pushed to the floor. Whichever way you look at it, it was a foul. Then they score from it, which was a double whammy. So he's livid, Jack. I mean, VAR's here to stay. We're not going to lose VAR, but do you share your dad's frustration?
Yeah. Again, I share Sean Dyche's kind of like you. VAR's great. It's just the Wallies that are running it. It's kind of like
human error, isn't it?
Purpose, yeah, exactly. It's still people behind the machine. It's not automated and stuff like that. There should be. I don't know. I honestly, I don't know what the solution is at this point. But what's going to come of it? He's going to come out the press. He's come out in the press. He's going to get fined. He's going to get fined for doing that. It's going to be on Sky Sports where they have the ref watch thing, and the ref watch guy is going to go, yeah, probably should have been disallowed and all that kind of like stuff. And then there's going to be no repercussions. Rob Jones is going to go straight into like a new game next week, and it's all going to be forgotten. Meanwhile, we're kind of like scratching our heads and we're talking about it, and we're kind of like, get Clattenburg back. Get Clattenburg back in the stands, for God's sake. We need somewhere.
Let's write a letter. You remember? Yeah.
But then they'll scoff when we kind of like suggest like there's a top six bias or a bias against the club or kind of like, these kind of like viewpoints. And these are how they build up. You get kind of like results and they always seem to go into it like a kind of like Manchester City or Arsenal or Liverpool kind of like way. And it's kind of just like annoying because as a quote unquote smaller team, or like, you know, it's like you're trying to build yourself up and trying to prove that not only that you belong there, but you can compete with these guys, and we were competing, and we are competing, and then it's just like little things like that kind of just take the wind out your sails. It's just like, what do I need to do to stop making stupid decisions, please?
Yeah. I think the fact is the frustration of everybody, you know, and Sean included, like Jack says, you know, he's going to get fined. He's going to get fined for coming out and saying it. But the problem is he's not wrong. And at that point, you have to think, well, how is it that like I say, there's no consequences for the managers, you know, and as like I say, the best league in the world, can't have an open conversation with the referees included, right? I'm not suggesting we all go rogue. I'm saying, with the referees included, saying, guys, the inconsistency in a multi-billion-dollar league where the referees are protected, that they can't take responsibility or don't come out and say, hey, I hold my hands up, I got it wrong. And, you know, we're all off to ref school to go and learn, you know, about being consistent and whatever that, and we're going to review it ourselves and come out and say, yeah, that was wrong. We're going to do this, or we're going to take these actions. Are we going to? But it just seems like you can't say a word against them. They're a protected species, and like I say, the club and Sean will be fined for his comments. And I find that just stunning. I find it stunning and frustrating. Yeah. You know, where you can hear the frustration in all of us.
It is. It's very frustrating. It leaves Forest still in 17th position in the Premier League. In other matches today, West Ham did succumb to Fulham. It was a late goal from Jimenez. So Fulham doing us a favour, that West Ham losing 1-0. They don't make any ground on us. Burnley managed to pick up a point at home to Everton in a 0-0 draw. Wolves losing again at Liverpool, 2-1 defeat there. So no movement in terms of the bottom four, and as I say, we're 17th. Leeds still to play. I think they play tomorrow against Sunderland, so we'll keep an eye on that. Brentford absolutely smashing Bournemouth 4-1. So Bournemouth in free fall in 15th place on 22 points, looking a shadow of the team they were last season. But I have to say, fair play to Brentford. I had them nailed on to be relegated.
I think we all did, didn't we?
I have to say, fair play to Brentford and fair play to Keith Andrews. Yeah. Because the job that he's doing is absolutely fantastic. They now sit in 8th position on 26 points, just a point behind Sunderland, who are in 7th on 27. So, again, some nice surprises in the Premier League. We've still got to do our bit. So, fair play to them. We're still 5 points clear of the drop. And if we perform the way we did today and the way we performed against Spurs at home, we play Everton at home on Tuesday night. And I'm feeling really buoyed by that, guys. So how are you two feeling about our position? Like I said, we are 17th, but the signs are there that, like, even though we've lost a few games now under Deitch, he's getting a lot of things right, don't you think, Jack?
Absolutely. Yeah, and you can tell we're playing much better, especially kind of like the first game of the season that we had with Nuno. Absolutely great game, and then from there we had the troubles, and then we had Anjin, and
that's what you want to call it.
Yeah. and then we got Deitch, and it was almost like we got our identity back. It was just like, okay, these are the amazing things that we're doing last season. We've got, you know, our defense back with that Murillo and Milenkovic kind of like partnership, which is probably why Sel suffered so much, where it was just like kind of like trying to play Ange ball when this kind of, you know, you don't necessarily have the best centre-back duo all there all the time with Morato stepping in and stuff. But it feels like we've got our identity back. We're playing some really good stuff at times. It's just like kind of what I said earlier is just like, I hate the phrase that we're too good to go down, because we're still in that position, and you know, we can play brilliantly, but if we have like bad refereeing decisions or dodgy goals go against us. It's kind of like, it's those kind of things that can put you down. It doesn't matter how good you are on paper, and whether we should be, if from where what is it now since Dyche came in? I remember was it last week where it was like we would have been sixth if the league table started when Dyche started. It's something like that. So it's just like, we're playing great stuff, but at this present moment, we're still down there. We need to start picking up those wins. We need to start doing them consistently. We need to play like we did, like we played against Man City, against the lesser opposition, the kind of like teams that we're expected to compete against.
Yeah, exactly. I think exactly that. I mean, we need to, the consistency. I mean, I was, quality today, like say 4-5-1, we're not really playing with a natural striker, I suppose, in a lot of respects, except Jesus, but we played almost like like an attacking midfielder stayed, didn't he, in this position he played, but exceptional in that. But, the Liverpool game, the top of the sine wave, the Liverpool Tottenham game, saying, you just have to hope that we bring that to Everton. You just have to hope that we keep up that, the same fight, right? And it's all, for me, it's all about fight. As I say today, everybody just fought for the ball. I mean, you can name them, all that go through the team. We sat on the couch at 90 minutes into extra time saying, who would you pick as man of the match? I mean, because it was such a, you could pick Anderson, you could have picked, Hutchinson, you could pick, Jesus, you could have picked, I mean, Savannah had a fantastic game, I mean, we're there sort of like going, this is, just incredible. So.
Yeah, no, on Savannah, I think he did okay. A couple of errant passes, but he also had a chance to complete what would have been a lovely third goal against three of the big hitters, with Man United goal and a Liverpool goal, and he skied it. One thing that's really gone against us this season, just before we close out the episode, is the injuries. And we've had players coming back and players back on the bench. It was nice to see Backward finally getting some minutes off the bench, albeit be it 3 or 4 minutes only. But we were a little bit disappointed and a little bit kind of scratching our heads when we saw Chris Wood release this onto his Instagram today. Everyone's seen it. It's the Christmas I didn't expect, he says. You can never know what football throws at you, from the highs of last season to now the battles and the lows, personally, of this season. You have to be ready for anything. Truly gutting and frustrating that I'll be on the sideline for another period of time. So basically, there's a picture there of him in his hospital bed, which is very worrying. He's wishing everybody a Merry Christmas. And you think, what on earth is going on? Because he was up and about on his feet. He was making visits to the hospital to see the children. He was talking about a bruised bone in the knee. And we're all just kind of anticipating. And I even thought, boys, you know what? I reckon we might see Chris Wood on the bench today. And that was before I saw that Instagram post. Paul Taylor in The Athletic reports that Chris Wood has been sidelined since mid-October with the issue that we know about. The club hoped it would be cured by rest, but Wood will now face a further period of recovery following what Sean Dyche described as a cartilage operation to address that bone swelling in his knee. Dyche says he has had surgery at the end of a period of trying to settle it down. We had a lot of specialist opinion on trying to get through things naturally, but they have decided it was time to go and do it. Version of a cartilage op. It will not be days. We are hoping it will be weeks. We'll have to see how it settles. The signs were good from a surgical point of view. So, with Wood now out for a more prolonged period of time and January just days away, is it time for Forest to turn to the transfer market and sign a new striker, Dave?
Hey, we needed a new striker for a long time, or we've talked about this before. I love Chris Wood. I still love T. It's hard to get a big downer on Big T, but he's not even the short-term answer. He's certainly not the long-term answer. He's not the short-term answer. I have no idea. I mean, he was going to come, going to come on today, and you're sort of thinking, where's Callie? Where's Callie? I mean, where's he in all of this? And he's been at the club for months now, and surely his fitness or whatever's going off there as well. You know,
a couple of goals in Europe that you think he's going to kick on from that.
But especially when you talk about other players that we've said, you know, there's other players that are getting their chance and he's bringing them in when they've played well, and that's not happening with Cali. So, you know, it still goes back to Big T, and I'm like, yeah, you know, but anyway, you know, I think we need a different striker. But like I say, the whole Premier League and the whole of every other league, Serie A and Bundesliga, are all looking for those nuggets, right? You know, to come in. But we need a different type of striker. You know, we not just a Chris Wood, 6 yard
old-fashioned centre forward.
Yeah. But, you know, like a Shearer and a thing, you know, Lineker, like poke it in and be in the right place, which is a Chris Wood type. You know, I'm not putting him in the same thingy, but you get my gist. Is the same style of. But we certainly need a creative. We need someone who can, you know, take the ball and, you know, and make something happen. You know, you'd argue like a Haaland, you know, the fact we all sit there and go, well, he had 6 touches in the first half means nothing with Haaland because you can have 1 touch in any point in a game and score, right? You know, but we don't have one of those. So I don't know. That would be my thing. I think it's well overdue.
What about you, Jack, just before we close out? Is it a striker for you, or is there any other position you'd like to see us reinforce?
I'm hoping to get Ola back. I like Savona, but it's kind of like he seems to be a rough diamond at the moment, where it's just like, as you said, it's a couple of errors, that kind of like misplaced passes or something along those lines that seem to put him in a little bit of trouble. So I can't wait for Ola to come back. That's going to be like a new signing. Made a couple of academy appearances, hasn't he? So hopefully he's on the mend. Again, it's going to be, once we get all these injuries sorted, we're going to be looking at the team that we thought we were starting the season with. All those kind of like 200 million pounds of signings, and we've only seen a fraction of it so far. Really, whether that's money down the drain or not. A striker. We've got 4. We've got 4 at the club, so it's kind of just like you know what we do with Cali. Is Cali going out on loan? What's his story? Is Jesus going to be happy to stop down the bench? Jesus has a lot to offer. He's kind of like a different striker, but as we've seen today, he was really good at that guy at the top of the pitch, doing that hold up play and like passing it on. We'd all love a Haaland, whether, you know, what's the market saying? What can we get? I mean, like someone like a Dominic Calvert-Lewin would have been good, but you wouldn't have said that before he joined Leeds and started absolutely banging it in. You would have thought he would, like, you know, he was past it. But that was the same with Chris Wood. It was like that veteran striker. And we probably just need, you know, you probably say you don't need that Alan Shearer kind of like big man in the box, but I think that's exactly what we need to
we probably do right now. Right?
We do. I'm thinking that maybe Taiwo will go in January because maybe the regular first team football. Kalimawendo, whether he goes out on loan or stays, is still there to play a part. But also Igor Jesus, you know, it's overload, isn't it? It's work overload. If Wood's not in the mix, you know, if Igor's playing Premier League, we've still got the European campaign to think about. So I think bringing a striker in to kind of ease the load a bit and share the load is really, really important. People are talking about Ivan Toney. I don't see that happening. He's not going to want to come back from Saudi in January because that will be a heavy, heavy tax bill for both Saudi and the UK to the tune of about 14 million. So if he stays there until August 26, he comes back and pays basically next to nothing and pockets about 28 million pounds. So Ivan Toney, I don't think is realistic. It might mean dipping into the lower leagues, maybe to have a look at one of the players there that we haven't thought about. A player that, and again, I'm not suggesting that we go and sign this player, but going back to not this summer just gone, but the summer before, the player that I really liked was that Elijah Adebayo, I think his name is, from Luton. He's done really well in the Premier League. I haven't kept up with him and what he's up to in League One or so on, but you know, sometimes you can unearth a bit of a nugget from somewhere, whether it's the Championship, whether it's from Europe, or you know, we've been dipping into the South American market quite a bit, haven't we? So we'll have to see. But I do think a striker is going to be really important, as well as maybe switching into a new left back. So we'll have to see what happens in January. It's not that far away.
Let's get Sam Surridge back.
Okay? Get him back. That is not a bad shout, because there was talk that, I think, who was it that were maybe Wolves maybe talking about trying to sign him, or somebody. But you know what? That is not a bad shout. No one scored more goals in the MLS than Sam Surridge, apart from Lionel Messi. I think I read. So crazy to get Sam Surridge and Keenan Davis mentioned, both.
You can always depend on the Bard.
Promotion season in this podcast. I love that. All right, you two guys have been legends. Thank you so much for joining us. How long are you in America for visiting Dad, mate?
Just a week. Oh. But yeah, we're going to make the most of it. Good New Year. Yeah.
And one thing I love is watching the football with my dad and my son. So I bet the chance to kind of watch a game together today was quite nice.
Absolutely, until you start spoiling the scoreline before it even happens on the TV.
Well, blame the BBC, blame the BBC and the Forest US.
Turn your notifications off.
I know. I just couldn't. I was like, no, nothing's going to happen from here. And then next minute, yeah. So, yeah, it's been great. So,
yeah, it's been great to have you come on Talking Reds. We'll have you both back on individually and together again at some point. I am certain about that. Thank you so much to both of you for being with us for this episode. Okay, we're going to close it out there, guys. Thanks ever so much for tuning in. We'll be back at some point soon. I'll put it out on social media. Forest lose at home to City, but the performance was something that we can be happy about. And I think we can all agree that John Robertson, one of our greatest ever players, the greatest ever player, who now sits alongside Clough and Taylor in heaven above, would have been looking down and feeling quite pleased of how we've gone about our business today. We didn't get the result, but the performance is lots to feel positive about. Come on, you Reds.
Come join Greg and Richard.